In 16 days, players all around the NBA are going to be fighting for their job. For the Warriors, those players are McClung, Trevion Williams, Jerome Robinson, and Pat Spencer all on the chopping block. Let me break it down for you. Now, before I get started, I want to mention that I did a section on Ryan Rollins. I missed him totally in my Golden State player breakdown videos. Apologies for that. He was the 44th overall pick in this year's draft by the Warriors. So if you want to watch that section on him, stick around to the very end of the video. Anyways, this is about the NBA preseason that starts in 16 days. So the way the NBA rosters work is that once the regular season starts, you can have 15 players on your roster plus 2 two-way contracts. Now the Warriors right now actually have 19 players on their contract, just like most of the other teams around the NBA. They've got a few extra players now to sort of hold the tryouts here in preseason to see who's going to be sticking around to make the actual final cut. So, like I mentioned, those 4 guys in the intro, those 4 are going to be playing for 2 open roster spots on this Warriors squad. All right, before we get into actually talking about who's making the team and who's not, I'm going to get into each of these players and break them down a little bit for you. Now, there's some repeats here, McClung and Trevion, so I'll be able to go in a little bit more depth on those guys. First off, though, we've got Jerome Robinson. He's 25 years old, 6'4", 190 pounds, a well-rounded, somewhat experienced player here. Last year he played in the G League, averaged 20.2 points on 45% from the field and 33% from 3. Robinson was drafted by the Clippers 4 years ago. He then got traded to the Wizards and was subsequently waived. Now last season he spent in the G League like I mentioned, and his mindset going into training camp here and also the preseason is, I think, get to the free throw line. Now his free throw percentage has improved so much in his time in the league. When he was with the Clippers, he shot only 60%, and in the G League last season, he was up to 82%. The free throw attempts have also been increasing each year, and while it's not a whole ton of points he's going to generate getting to the line, it's consistent 2 or 3 he can get every game, which is super crucial in a tryout sort of situation where every game really, really matters. So having those 2 or 3 more points is going to be a huge deal. Now, in terms of the team's criteria, I think they're going to be looking for, can this guy shoot threes? Does he have big 3-point potential? Now, he's never really moved that 3-point percentage from the low 30s, but do the Warriors think that with some time with him, they can mold him and get that 3-pointer up to mid-30s or high 30s? On defense, too, he's quick and gets in the passing lanes. A steal a game in the G League is pretty impressive, and he got those same amounts of steals back when he was on the Wizards 2 seasons ago, just in less minutes, and so slightly less steals, but the same amount of steals per minute. Next up here, we've got Pat Spencer, the lacrosse player. He's 25 years old, 6'3", 205 pounds. Last season in the G League, he averaged 7.5 points on ludicrous efficiency, 58% from the floor and 47% from 3. So Spencer spent 4 years playing lacrosse in the NCAA, where he still holds the record for the most assists. He also earned some other top awards as well. He was a really great lacrosse player. Anyways, he used his last season of eligibility to play basketball at Northwestern and then spent last year with the Wizards G League affiliate team. Now as for Roll, this guy played 4 years of lacrosse and those guys are totally insane. It's like hockey, but they beat each other up with a stick. So he's a super tough guy and he's not going to mind any physicality. Rebounding too could, I think, turn into a really big strength for him. I'm surprised it's not already, but maybe that's just a matter of getting used to, how guys box out and being a little bit more experienced with that and just maybe a better feel for where's this ball bouncing off the rim. That's sort of a subconscious thing that you only get with repetitions. Now, as for shooting, he does have low attempts from 3, but his efficiency improved a lot in the last 2 seasons, going from 24% in college to 47% in the G League. Like, that's totally insane numbers. I get it, it's low volume, but it is pretty promising, and especially when you consider that the G League 3-point line is actually deeper than the college 3-point line. Now for the rest on offense, inside the 3-point line, he's quite efficient. He's solid enough. That aggressiveness, that toughness, physicality, he can get to the rim, and he can make the right play too. There's no doubt that some of the court vision from lacrosse has carried over with that 2.0 assist-to-turnover ratio, which is really the benchmark the Warriors seem to be looking at. Now, as for what the Warriors are actually looking for in this guy when they decide to keep him or cut him, the first thing has got to be the Warriors system. It's not easy to learn for anybody, and how well does this guy pick it up? He's relatively new to professional basketball. I know he's an insane athlete and has played tons of sports, but we're comparing the creme de la creme, the top to the top up here. So if he can pick that up decently well pretty quickly, I think that'll be a huge boost for him in their rankings. And also that 2.0 assist-to-turnover ratio that I mentioned, the Warriors do a lot of pace and space. They pass the ball a ton, and which means people turn the ball over quite a bit. So if he can maintain that 2.0 assist to turnover ratio in the system. I think that bodes well for him too. As for defense, I like to see him get into people's bodies, steal balls, hustle. Definitely an on-ball defensive guy. And score within the system. Have smart three-point selection. I don't think he's a great shooter, but if he can be a smart shooter, that's good enough. You looked at what he did in the G League last season. 47% from three is insane. And again, I don't think he's an amazing shooter. I think he just took the most wide open and efficient shots he possibly could. So be a smart shooter. Next here on the chopping block is Trevion Williams. He's 21 years old, 6'10", 255 pounds. Last season in college, he averaged 36% from three, 56% from the field, and 3 assists. So Trevion spent 4 years in the NCAA at Purdue, then the Summer League with the Boston Celtics, and finally he signed this contract with the Golden State Warriors. So Trevion's mindset going into this preseason here, I think he wants to take a lot of shots. He definitely did that with the Celtics in the Summer League. He took a shot every 2 minutes, and his efficiency sucked as a result. He only had 46% from the field as a big, which is subpar, and 25% from three, albeit on low volume. That said, I think he's super capable of creating super awesome highlights out of the paint, flashy passing, and dunking on people. That's his bread and butter. Now, what's actually going to get him on this Warriors team? Well, I can't tell you for sure, but I'm sure they're going to be interested in that three-point shooting. Whether, one, can you hit it from further back? The NBA three-point line is a little bit deeper than the college three-point line. And also, can you do it on a little bit higher volume too? The volume was super low in college. I think you should be a little bit risky in these preseason games. Maybe take one a game, because if you can make them and just get lucky and just make these shots, then people can be like, wow, maybe this guy can actually shoot it. And if not, it's not a super deal breaker for what the Warriors are going to want you to do in this system. Now, in that system, in that pace and space ball movement, they're going to want him to play make out of the post and take care of the ball, keep the turnovers low, and make the obvious simple pass within the offense, passing out of the post there. They love that stuff. Not exactly the flashy playmaking I was talking about him wanting to do before, but we'll see how he does the balance there for himself. Anyways, on defense too, be active and get one step of the offense to make plays. He showed a proficiency to do this, get steals and blocks. In the Summer League, he got a steal every 20 minutes and a block every 30. All right, our last player up here in the NBA's version of the Hunger Leagues is McClung. He's 23 years old, 6'2", 185 pounds. Last season in the G League, he averaged almost 22 points a game on 38% from the three-point line, 47% from the field, and almost 90% from the free throw line. Those are elite numbers, especially for the efficiency. We don't know how it's going to translate to the NBA per se, but a lot of potential there. In Mac's college career, he spent 2 years at Georgetown before transferring to Texas Tech for what would be his last season. After that, he played a season in the G League, where he was a great scorer of the ball and opportunistic on defense, getting 1.4 steals per game. So as for what Mac's going to be doing in this preseason, I expect him to try to dominate the ball whenever he's given the opportunity. It's a high-risk play style, but has a great chance of wowing the fans. There is a lot of fan pressure for the Warriors to take Mac on. Just look at this Google Trends data versus other guys. He's definitely way more popular. That said, I doubt the Warriors will be swayed by this, but if he comes down to neck and neck with someone, this is definitely a factor. The goal for Mac is make people think, hey, I'm the next Poole. So what'll actually get Mac onto this NBA team? Well, he's not going to be running the show with Poole and Curry on the team, at least anytime soon. So he's going to need to show that he can fit a role on the team and fit in on this offense. Now, can he be efficient on offense too? I mean, the three-point percentage at minimum, we want to see that in the high 30s, smart shot selection. And also, pass, make other guys better. He's got that 2.0 assist to turnover ratio, but is that going to hold up in the preseason where this isn't the G League anymore? You've got the very best of the G League and the very worst of the NBA. So it is a definite step up. It's not exactly like, hardcore starter NBA talent, but it's a lot better. Lastly, I want to see him survive on defense. Is the other team picking on you? Can you perform okay in the pick and roll? And is this guy getting subbed out because the other team's scoring guards are just abusing him? So we've gone over how all these guys are going to look on the court, what the Warriors might be looking for, but let's see how they actually fit on the team and think about what the front office of the Warriors will be thinking from a roster construction point of view. We'll get started with Trevion Williams. So on the center position, the Warriors have a few legit centers in Looney and Wiseman, and some small ball centers too, with Draymond and JaMychal Green. Now, Draymond and Wiseman are pretty injury prone, and JaMychal Green is getting older. So I think if they picked up Trevion, it's almost guaranteed he'd have some useful minutes, not just to develop himself, but to actually contribute on this roster too. What the Warriors will be excited about as for Trevion's fit in the system is his flashes of three-point shooting. That's super nice for pace and space, but more importantly, I think his playmaking. That flashy passing I was talking about and setting screens, dribble handoffs. This guy's 21 years old and 255 pounds. He's going to be an absolute beast and tank people, man. He's going to be hurting people out there. I think that's what the Warriors are most excited about in this guy is his size, his presence, and being able to play make out of the paint. Next up, McClung. So how does he fit into the roster? Well, he does a similar thing to Curry and Poole where they dominate the ball, although those guys are really big playmakers, so he's got to learn how to do that too. You should see some nights where those guys sit so he can get some playing time. He does offer something a little bit different than them too with his speed and his athleticism. And he fits okay in the system. He's really got to fill in some of that missing hustle they lost with Gary Payton, be a scorer off the bench, and the defense, it's a little suspect on ball, but 1.4 steals a game is sweet. Now, as for upside, I think the scoring is super intriguing, and the Warriors definitely know how to incubate that. Have you met Curry? Have you met Poole? I think this is really McClung's best shot to make it big into the NBA scene since the Warriors development program is so good. So expect him to be putting everything on the line. I think he knows it too, and I'm really excited to watch him here in the preseason. Okay, so Pat Spencer, how does he fit into this roster? Well, first off, I don't think him and Jerome Robinson are going to get picked up together. It might be one or the other, but definitely not both. The Warriors just have too much depth at that shooting guard position. Tough guys who can hit threes better than either of these guys. Think about Dante DiVincenzo, Moses Moody, and Quindary Weatherspoon, I believe his name is. Quite a mouthful. Anyways, his fit on the system, the 2.0 assist to turnover ratio shows he can embrace that pace and space. Speaking of space, the three ball is definitely a total wild card with this guy, but it looked elite last year on almost no volume. As for upside, I would say the biggest thing, like I said, the wild card, 3-point shooting might be really, really good, and the toughness and awareness is great intangibles to have. Finally, Jerome Robinson, like I mentioned with Patrick, I doubt they're both going to get picked up together. There's just too much depth at that spot on the Warriors shooting guard, just too many guys there. Now, as for fitting into the system, he's got that patented 2.0 assist to turnover ratio. That's what the Warriors seem to be benchmarking every single one of their guys in this tryout for. 2.0 assist to turnover ratio. You need to play make a little bit to be in this team, to play in this system. And I think that's the biggest upside potential here for Jerome. Maybe he flourishes in this system over, training camp. In preseason, he learns it a lot quicker than others. There is a chance for this, because he's actually got the most NBA experience out of this group by quite a wide margin. Okay, now I'm going to go over exactly who I think is going to be the most likely to make this Warriors roster and who's the least likely. Starting out at number 4, the least likely is Pat Spencer. Next, Jerome Robinson. Second place is McClung. And number 1, Trevion Williams. Now, I'm not saying for sure these guys are going to end up in this order. This is just what I think is the most likely. All right, so the reason I put Spencer at 4 is because he's 25 years old, tied for the oldest here with Jerome, but still no NBA experience. It's going to be hard for him to show out against the increased competition that he's never faced before in his life. That said, I think he's got a very high random factor. The 3-ball, we don't know exactly what's going to happen with that, especially if he lets a few fly per game. That can make things very random, very wild. And there's a chance he plays solid, man. And if that's the case and the Warriors see this, they might take him over someone else, thinking, hey, if we refine this guy a little bit more, look how much he's improved already in our system. Number 3, Jerome Robinson. I put him down here because of all the depth at shooting guard for the Warriors and his lack of a special ability. Now, he gets to be above Pat Spencer because he's got those, 3 years of actual NBA experience on him. That's going to be very valuable. And as for wildcard, he could be playing super solid in the Warriors system right now in the offseason. And he could be helping young guys, telling them where to go, and shoot it very well from 3, not only in preseason, but in practice too, to really convince them, wow, this guy's actually taking that from 32% to maybe 35% this season. Number 2, I put McClung because he seems like the best prospect out of all these guards. The Warriors really love these shooting, scoring guard archetypes, and they flourish so much in that system and with that training staff. Now, as for wildcards that could make this guy, drop down to the 3 and the 4 and end up getting cut from this Warriors squad, will be chucking tons of ill-advised shots they shouldn't take in the first place, not making his teammates better, and just being lazy on defense. So hopefully we don't see any of that from Mac, but it's far from guaranteed he'll be making this team. At number 1, I had to go with Trevion Williams. You just got to go with the center for this Warriors roster here. He's a great prospect for them. He just fits in so well in the team, and also they need a little bit more depth at that spot. The only thing I could see him falling out of the rotation is if the body language is terrible. Maybe there's some character issues at training camp, and this guy just totally forgets how to play make. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed and learned something about the preseason that's starting into 16 days. Who do you think on this Warriors chopping block of Jerome Robinson, Pat Spencer, McClung, Trevion Williams? Which 2 out of those 4 do you think are going to make the actual roster? And feel free to leave your top 4 in the comments below. Alright, like I promised at the start of the video, we're going to break down Ryan Rollins for you here. He's 20 years old, 6'4", 180 pounds. Last season in the G League, he averaged almost 19 points a game on 47% from the field and racked up 1.7 steals per game. Rollins spent 2 years in college before being drafted 44th overall in this year's draft. On defense, he's a good team defender and super opportunistic to grab 1.7 steals per game. Offense is definitely his better side, though. He scores super efficiently inside the three-point line, 52% from the two-point area, only 31% from three, but he can work on that with the Warriors, and that's not all that matters in a scorer here. He's super aggressive, too, even at this young age, 4.8 free throw attempts per game, and he converts on 80% of those. Now, he is pretty light. Most shooting guards in the league are going to be a little bit heavier, a decent bit heavier than him. Just think if he went up against a guy like Jaylen Brown, I don't think you're going to be drawing fouls quite as easily. But, can this guy put on some weight? 180 at 6'4" is pretty skinny. So I think he'll be able to put on some weight while he has some time here in the league. The only other concern for me really is his lack of playmaking. Only 1.6 assist to turnover ratio. Now, in the previous part of the video, we talked about how each of these prospects the Warriors are bringing to training camp, and they might get cut, they might make the team. They've all got at least a 2.0 assist to turnover ratio because pace, space, the Warriors system, it requires a lot of passing. So that's going to be a big focus for them in training camp, in the preseason. Make sure this guy can handle the ball. He knows where the easy passes are, and he can complete those. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments what you thought about me branching out from player breakdowns to a little bit more in-depth stuff here. I certainly like it. Anyways, like, subscribe, and I'll see you later. Peace.